All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's been a bit of an interesting day here. So this morning I was attempting to essentially take my existing management VLAN and cut it in two. So I want the ability to have my infrastructure machines in one VLAN or the base LAN, and I want the ability to have like all the wireless machines, like things that don't necessarily need to be on that same LAN on another one. So I did that, and I, of course, added the VLAN to the router. That worked fine. Added the VLAN to the Wi-Fi access point. That worked fine as well. But I forgot to add to the switches. So I was sitting here this morning, TCP dumping on the router and the AP, like seeing the traffic pass through, but I should have just logged into the switch, you know? So what are you going to do? So things are a bit of a mess. I made a bit of a change this morning to the network. I guess we'll see. So right now, it appears I'm unable to turn my light on. I got the Elgato key light set up a couple days ago, and it no longer appears in here. So I wonder if I can curl it and turn it on. So let me check the address really quick, see if it's the same as what it was the other day. I can't reach it. Did it change addresses? Oh, shoot. You know what? I dumped all of the DHCP leases. Well then. It does have a physical switch, but the thing is it's set on right now. So I have to, I'm gonna have to figure out the address. So, all right, let's do that really quick. So I could look at the DHCP leases. I could check the logs. Let's see here. Yeah, I dumped all the DHCP leases because I wanted to renumber things because a lot of devices are moving over to a new VLAN. So DHCP V4. Let's see here. grep Elgato. Right? There we go. Okay. 192.168.6630. Okay. That was on May 23rd. Okay, so it probably hasn't gotten a new DHCP lease, and I think I expired all the leases. So I wonder if I could just reset it really quick. Hold on a sec. Where's the light on this thing? Okay, now it's off. Ah! It's so bright. So this is going to be tomorrow's project on stream, is making a client for the Elgato key light. It should be pretty fun. Let's see if that prompted a DHCP. Yes, there we go. Okay. 192.168.6630. Oh, if you're renumbering, consider using 10. Okay, many commands accept abbreviated addresses. Yeah, you know, I saw that and I was very confused. Like when I saw people can refer to IP addresses with like a very like that sort of thing, like that really confused the heck out of me. So I think in this case I'm probably gonna stick to the 192 because I mostly use DNS anyway. But let's see if that came up now. Okay, so the light is back up, so we're good. I think I just needed to give it a kick. And now, hey, there we go. I was playing with it last night. Let me turn up the brightness. Okay, there we go. So this is actually pretty cool. Nice beer collection. Yeah, so this is the wall of beer, my Bell's beer collection I've been working on for like 10 years now. It's pretty cool. I know that it's kind of like the college decoration thing, right? But Bell's is my all-time favorite brewery, and I've got some really cool bottles. So I think someday it's going to make a cool display on like a man cave sort of thing, you know? So let's see really quick if we can curl this thing. I want to show you all what I learned about it. So I don't think I'm going to have 9123. And then what is it? Is it Elgato accessory info? I think this is one of the endpoints. Yeah, so if I curl this, you will see... Oh, shoot, I don't have my... Sorry. There we go. Hey, okay. So we'll log into the router again in a sec, but for now... So you'll see here I curled the light itself, so it's running some kind of microcontroller with an HTTP interface built in. So the key light lives here. I can see its firmware version, serial number, etc. Features lights. So I think if I go to, what is it, Elgato lights? Yeah, so you can see like how many lights are on the device, the current status and stuff. And then if I, excuse me, I just ate breakfast. This was kind of an impromptu thing, of course. Like I wanted to work on this anyway because the goal for today is going to be to add a new VLAN for the 10 gig gear I'm getting, so I'll show that off too. But this light is going to be something we're going to work on tomorrow, so I want to show this off as well. So if I send a put to this thing and I pass approximately this JSON blob, so lights, we're going to leave it on, we're going to turn the brightness up to 100, and it's going to be insane. So you will see this. And it will be surprising. This is a pretty cool... Oh, that's wrong. Right. This is pretty cool. So this is gonna blind me. Ah, see that? It's It's impressive, actually. Like, I just got this, and it's like basically like sunlight, you know? So I'm keeping it at like level 15 normally, so let's turn that back down. There we go. So what I want to do with this is make it so that those of you who've been in previous streams may recognize the launchpad. So my goal for tomorrow's stream is to get this light working with the launchpad. So you press a button, it turns it up to like my streaming level or something like that, or I can turn it all the way on, all the way off. So that is the goal for tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of fun. But today we need to do some network maintenance. So I guess I'll catch you all up with what I've done already today. Let's see here. It'll be nice to have like a physical button for OBS scenes instead. So we need to open up a Chrome instance. Yeah, I'm a little off my game this morning. The network migration thing took longer than you'd expect, of course. Like it's never as easy as you think it's going to be. And you think you've got everything nailed down, but then you find out that, you know, the switches need the VLAN too. So the Wi-Fi has it, the router has it, but the switches don't. So I'm setting up my authentication really quick for GitHub. I need to get back in there. Yeah, by the way, thank you all for hanging out on a Sunday morning. I know this is very impromptu. I appreciate that there are folks who are interested in this sort of thing. This is definitely different than my usual content, but I think this is pretty fun too. So we're going to drag this down. There we go. So this is my homelab repo. So for the longest time, this was basically started out as Ansible configurations. And over time, I have tried to find different configuration management things that work for me. And, you know, at work and things like that, I've used tools like Chef and Puppet. Those feel awfully heavyweight for home use. So I was using Ansible for a while, and it worked pretty well. But the thing is that it's kind of awfully verbose, like for something that is effectively like a bash script, right? And I was just never really super satisfied with like my playbooks. Like they worked just fine. I was able to reinstall my server in like pretty much no time, which is pretty cool. But some friends introduced me to NixOS. So for those who are not familiar, NixOS is a very cool Linux distribution based around the Nix language. So Nix is I'm not a functional programming person. It's some kind of crazy functional programming type thing. It's got basically what this allows you to do is use the Nix configuration language to configure your machines in a declarative way. So now, I originally made a router that runs NixOS, and I did that in, I think, December. And I'm at the point now where I actually have two machines running NixOS. So my primary router that we're using right now runs NixOS, and that's what we're going to be working on today, as well as my server, which is here as well. So those used to be, my router was a Ubiquity box, but I wanted more flexibility, and my server used to be Ubuntu, but NixOS actually works great. So my homelab repo these days is mostly NixOS. So I've got a few things here. I've got Ansible stuff that I'm slowly removing in favor of NixOS configs. I've got some Grafana dashboards, which may or may not be out of date. The NixOS configs, as well as my OBS configs. So this is actually pretty cool. I copied my OBS stuff out so that way I have it in a Git repository in case I lose it. That'd be great. So the NixOS portion, we have a couple of different machines in here. We have this shared lib folder. So the basic idea is my router's config, so route ner2. This is kind of a silly story, but a long time ago, like, I don't know, like third grade or something, I was like, oh, the word ner, that's funny, haha. And it actually turns out to work pretty well for, you know, computer names like route ner, serve ner, etc. And there's the double meaning these days because I do Go network programming, and if you're creating a variable of type net.error, I would usually call it nerr or ner. So this is kind of like a silly thing, a convention I've adopted for my machines. So the router configs live here, the server configs live here, and we have the shared lib folder. So my router is all completely NixOS, and the way this works, let's open up something. Let's open up the main configuration first. So this is Nix. Basically, we import whatever variables we'd like to use throughout the file, and you can import different modules from different files. And if you want to configure your machine, here's how you would do it. So for example, if I want to set up the grub2 bootloader with MBR from my router, I've got boot, I've got kernel, and then loader grub. I say I want to enable grub, it's version 2, and the device we're going to boot from is dev SDA. In addition, under this boot kernel tree, there's also things like sysctl, sysctl, whatever people want to call it. So I can actually define like parameters for my system here all in a declarative way, and I tell the router, okay, sudo nixos rebuild switch, and it will actually apply all these configurations. So you can do this for things like the kernel parameters. Here I've got a list of packages installed. So like, for example, I want bind because I want things like dig. I've got some tools for flashing the ROM and such. and a couple of odd tree packages or unstable things. So CoreRad, the project I'm working on, is packaged in both stable and unstable NixOS, but I'm actually using it from unstable because it's a newer version and I'm keeping that more up to date. And I've got my WireGuard exporter packaged as well because the one that's currently in the tree makes some weird Prometheus choices that I don't like, so I'm using mine. So Nix is very cool. Let's see here. You can define things like the services you want running. So yeah, I want Avahi running so I can reflect MDNS between my primary LAN and my IoT LAN because lots of the Chromecasts and things live under IoT. I can enable APC UPSD or OpenSSH. And really, you just write a configuration like this and say, okay, do it. And it'll apply that. It'll figure out whichever packages it needs to download and install, where the configurations need to go. And that's pretty much it. So this is extremely cool. So what I was doing earlier today is adding a new Vlan, which was all kinds of fun. So I guess to start here, I have this... Nix is a cool language and you can do lots of things with it, but ultimately I'm a lot more familiar with Go. And I wanted functions that can manipulate things like CIDR addresses, network prefixes, and etc. And Nix can't really do that super easily at the moment. So I've essentially wrote a Go generator, which will spit out a JSON file, which can be consumed by Nix as Nix variables, and then I can use that to populate my configs. So what I have here is I took the original LAN 0 subnet, which lived on the physical interface, and I have split it into two different interfaces. So now we have ENP2S0, which is the physical interface in the machine. This is now the management VLAN. And we also have LAN 0, which is now the wireless machines and other things that don't need to be on the same like infrastructure or management network. Those all live in their own VLAN, which is actually called LAN 0. So I had these variables. I assigned it so that some of my machines in here now live on the physical interface instead of the VLAN. I'm going to eventually move possibly the Raspberry Pi and a couple of other things over to the new VLAN, but for the moment, it doesn't really seem necessary. And also, it's nice with my desktop and my server because the server hosts virtual machines that run in the lab VLAN, so I need the ability to tag VLANs myself. And as for my desktop, it's nice for testing, but we'll see. We'll work this out. So I've written some boilerplate code here, and this spits out this JSON file, which is then consumed by my NixOS configs. So we add a new interface. It's called ENP2S0. It has this IPv4 address, so these IPv6 addresses, networks. LAN 0 is now a different LAN, and then I added it to all my configs. So I add in ENP2S0 to things like the CoreRad config, the Dhcp V4 config, Dhcp 6, the networking configs, which are things like Dhcp V6 prefix delegation, the interfaces list, the VLANs list. So effectively what I did is I was able to take my network and cleave it into two, all in a pretty declarative way. So NixOS is extremely cool, and this is what we're going to do today. We are going to add a new VLAN for the 10 gigabit gear I am getting. So I know I've said a lot. I've been talking for like 15 minutes straight probably. So if anybody has any questions about all of this, I'm happy to share. So NixOS takes a little bit to get into, but I will try and explain things as I go. But I want to show you all the 10 gig gear I am getting as well. What's it called? So walk us through the new gear. Excellent. Yeah. So I don't know if I have no idea if it's Microtic or Microtik. So they make this pretty cool little 10 gig switch. So this has a 1 gigabit uplink, and it has 4 10 gigabit SFP plus Microtik. I don't remember which one I said first. Okay, it's one of those two. This has a 1 gigabit uplink with regular RJ45 connection, and it's got 4 SFP plus 10 gigabit links. So what I need this for is, now that I'm streaming especially, I'm moving lots of large files in between my desktop, which lives here, and my server, which lives over there. So I want the ability to have a 10 gig link between those two machines, as well as more room for the future. So I'm going to take this switch, I will install it in my network, and I'm going to create a new VLAN. So the VLAN will have a 1 gig uplink into the internet, but it will have 10 gig for all the machines connected here. So the, let's see here. Let me find the eBay order I just did as well. Sweet. Okay, here we go. So as it turns out, 10 gigabit gear is fairly expensive. There we go. 10 gigabit gear is fairly expensive. That's not what oh, it's over. One sec. No, okay. Intel. So here's what I got, actually. It looks like this listing is now out of stock, but I was able to find used 10 gigabit cards that have a single SFP Plus slot. So these are using the SFP Plus form factor instead of regular RJ45. So you can actually do 10 gigabit Ethernet over, I believe, Cat 6A cable, which is RJ45. But those NICs tend to be very expensive and power hungry. And actually for stationary applications, the SFP Plus connector is a beast. It is very sturdy. So I wanted to get SFP Plus gear and get a couple of copper cables that I can use to run between them. But what's also cool about SFP Plus is if you need to do very long runs, you can actually install fiber modules instead. So in this case, my machines are maybe 10, 12 feet apart, so it's not that big of a deal. But if I ever wanted to run to a different building, you'd probably want to use something like SFP Plus with fiber. So I bought 2 of these cards for $34 a piece on eBay. Pretty inexpensive. If you try and buy them brand new, I want to say they're at least $150 or something. But this is generally the easiest way to get a nice network upgrade for your house, is to buy off of eBay, get used gear. And finally, I will show you the cables because that's relevant as well. Oops. Phone's blowing up. So I ordered these 10G Tech 10 gig SFP Plus DAC or direct attached cables. So basically what this is a copper cable with these SFP Plus connectors inline, and I can use this for a simple 10 gig link between my machines. If I wanted to, you could actually order 10 gig SFP Plus modules to run things like fiber or other options, but in my case, copper is fine. Oh, I have 3 switches in between my workstation and my storage. Lots of gear to upgrade for 10G. Yeah, for sure. I would love to have a network where I'm not daisy chaining switches, but right now that's just the reality. I live in an apartment, so it goes, let's see, cable modem goes to the router goes to my primary, like my core switch, essentially. The core switch comes and runs along the walls here, the Ethernet, to my office, and I think my office switch will be connected to this 10 gig switch, and then the 10 gig switch will be connected to the machines. So there's a few steps of indirection there, but thankfully my storage server and my desktop are both in the same room, so don't need to run any super long cables. So for all in about, I want to say $150 US, I'm able to get, no, 250, roughly $250 US. I'm able to get a 10 gig setup. So this is pretty exciting. But in order to actually make this work, I need to set up like a 10 gig VLAN because I still want internet access through that LAN in case I decide I want to take my machines off of the 1 gig network. So let's get to work on that sort of thing. So I've got this open in SSHFS. I guess I can bring that down a ways. Okay. So you could have done point-to-point without the switch even. Yes, I could have. I wanted the switch for future expandability. I don't need it immediately, but I wanted the ability to also have the 1 gig uplink, and then, like I said, possibly remove the 1 gig links in general, and possibly just go 10 gig only. But we'll see. I admit the switch is probably unnecessary, but the MikroTik or Microtic switch is cheap enough where I didn't really care, you know? So if I look at the links on my server today, or my router, so we have ENP1S0, this is the physical WAN link. ENP2S0 is the physical LAN link. 3 and 4 are currently unused, although I will probably set them up, one of them up with some kind of bonding to the modem, because I'm going to be getting a modem which is going to be, I think, DOCSIS 3.1, so capable of at least 2 gigabit per second. So I'll probably set up a redundant link in between them. And then we have the VLANs. So now we have the guest VLAN, which effectively is allowed to go out to the internet with some limited ports, but cannot talk to anything else. We have the IoT VLAN, which is heavily locked down for things like the Chromecasts, the Elgato Keylight, and etc. We have the lab VLAN, where I run experiments, so things like new builds of Core Rad, so I don't have to totally break my IPv6 and etc. We have the new LAN, which was originally on the physical interface, but is now a VLAN for all of my trusted devices. And then we have the WireGuard interface as well. This is another different LAN. Hey, Miguel, MIRQ. Miguel Merck? I don't know. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Planning to update my server too, but since I run all my loads with containers, I am planning to install Flatcar, I assume. What is the main point of using NixOS? Is it the declarative configuration? Yes. It is amazingly easy to install new services, run them, and then remove them because it's all declarative. Like you can install things like temporarily in a shell, but I have all of my configurations managed in Git, so it's pretty convenient. And actually, I am running one Docker container with NixOS as well. If I go to my servers configs, one sec, configuration. I'm hoping I don't have any secrets. I think I've got secrets in one file in here, which I hopefully won't show you all. But yeah, so if you want to enable things like virtualization, or you can enable Docker or libvirt. This is how you do it in NixOS. And I say, okay, I want Docker containers. I want the Prometheus Docker container from this place in the Docker registry. Give it these flags, forward this port to the local machine, and then establish this volume. And then suddenly I have a Prometheus Docker container running on NixOS. So you can even manage your containers in a declarative way, which is very cool. I'm running lots of things on the host itself because I frankly don't really care about containerization for a lot of my home use cases. It's just a little overkill, to be honest. But I think I might move my Ubiquity Unify controller in-house in a container because that installs things like Java and MongoDB that I don't really want to infect the rest of the system, you know. By the way, how is my audio level? I know yesterday I was watching the recording a little bit and things were a little loud in some spots. So if I'm clipping, please do let me know. The thing that draws me to Flatcar, which I used as CoreOS for a few years, is the automated updates. Yeah, that is very cool. So with NixOS, you can actually set automatic updates as well. So I have, I believe, under the common functionality, or the lib package, lib system. So these are all of the configurations that run on all of my machines. So I have things like the time zone, put my home bin directory in the path. Sound is fine. Okay, excellent. All these machines are headless, so I don't want any X libraries installed. Install all these packages. And I say, okay, so system automatic upgrades true. And you can even tell it to reboot your machine if you really want to. I don't do that, but you can. What was the other one? Yeah, so the Nix store, you can also enable like automatic maintenance on that. So you can purge old packages you're not using. You can automatically clear things or optimize the store. So there's a lot of automation built in with this as well. It's pretty cool. So when I got my new router, I wasn't totally sure what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to do something more in the declarative way of mind. I guess for me, this tends to work really well for like things like routers, right? So when you can create a configuration like this and just write it all down and then say, okay, apply this, for me, that works really well. So really quick, let's make sure everything is clean before we start making any changes. So, oh, right. So I actually have it set up as well so that my router, which is running a pretty wimpy AMD CPU, is, I'll show you all my router, APU 4D4. That looks extremely useful. I've been meaning to install NixOS on my main machine, but running a MacBook Pro currently. Nice. Yeah, so I actually have a few friends who are running NixOS as their primary desktop. I think that is very cool. The thing is I don't really want to, I'm not sure I'm willing to go there yet. You know, like I think it's pretty cool, but for me, infrastructure machines, like headless machines, definitely. My desktop, I don't know. Oh, stream popping off. It's Mike, by the way. Glad to see you doing well. Hey man, thanks for joining. Yeah, we're having a good time, just doing some tech streams and stuff. So thanks for hanging out. So this is my router, and actually Michael Stoppelberg, who is also here and is running this pretty much same machine, is doing it as well. So I am using this with NixOS. He has router 7 on it. It's a pretty cool little board. It's got 4 Gigabit Ethernet ports, an embedded AMD CPU, mSATA slots, couple SIM card slots. This is a very capable board, and it's inexpensive too. Oh, so how do you connect Git to server update with CI? So right now, I just pull the Git repositories manually. So I will typically modify them and then push and pull them to the various machines. There is a tool called NixOps, which kind of lets you automate some of that stuff. I have not done that yet. So I want to play with NixOps eventually, but right now I'm managing 2 machines, so it's not actually too hard. I tend to work on one machine, apply the config, commit it, and then move on. So what I was saying is this board is great, but it actually has a pretty wimpy CPU. So as far as building Nix configurations, it can be kind of slow. So I actually have my server, which is also running NixOS, set up as a remote build machine. So if I go to, let's see here. So you'll see here this Nix distributed builds thing. I have my server. I tell it that it's an x86-64 Linux machine. It can run, let's say, up to 8 jobs at once with 2 cores apiece, and it has these features. And if I pass this -J0, that will say I don't want to use the local machine CPU at all, like do any builds that are required on the remote machine instead. So I can do this, and I can basically put my Ryzen 7 2700 running over there to work instead of this embedded AMD CPU. And if my desktop were running Nix as well, or I decided to move to NixOS, I could actually use my desktop for the same purpose, which would be pretty cool. Let's see here. Hey, Twitter fun. Cool. Nice. We've got more folks in here than I expected for a Sunday morning. Thank you for hanging out. This is very impromptu. I've got plans this afternoon, so I would typically be doing like a early afternoon, but I wanted to get a few things done, and I figured that if I need to do this anyway, I might as well stream it and see what folks think, you know? So thanks for hanging out. So right now what I'm doing is I'm building the NixOS configuration out of the current repository to verify that everything is up to date before I start making any changes. And it looks like it is. It didn't say it's building anything. Cool. So if I go to Etsy NixOS, do I have the... No. Okay, I need to set up the SSH agent. This is going to be too annoying otherwise. I don't even know how many letters that password is, but there we go. GitHub. Cool. So the router's Git repository is totally up to date. Hey, welcome. So what I want to do now is, let's just show, for example, if we want to install a package. So what is something... what is NixOS? So NixOS is a declarative Linux distribution. So given a configuration like this, it tells Linux, or it tells the distribution to go ahead and fetch these packages, install this, do whatever else. It's very cool. So I was actually just trying to think of a package we can install that I might need on here, for example. Let's see. MTR, do I have that? I do have MTR. What's a useful networking tool I can install on here that's probably in NixOS? The thing is I've already added lots of the common things I would already need. So the list of things I already have installed lives here. So we have things like ethtool, Go, Git, htop, sensors, neighbor discovery, neofetch. Oh yeah, neofetch is always fun to show off, right? Yeah, so this is my box, APU 4. Just rebooted it today. We're kernel 542 or 5442. AMD embedded CPU, 1 gigahertz. Yeah, it does just fine, honestly. Like, this box is not really, you know, for routing, as far as like routing internet traffic goes, it's not actually having to do a whole lot, which is nice. Do I have dig on here? I do. What is something I could install? Is curl on here? Yeah, it is. All right, chat, I need your help. NetHugs can be fun. Yeah, actually, you know, NetHugs is a good idea. Oh, I already have it installed. Hey, yep. Let's see, what else? The thing is like I use this for like network debugging all the time anyway, so I've had to install a bunch of this stuff. Do I have... So this is gonna be funny. Okay, netstat. I don't want NetTools on here. I actually want to... Let me see if I can remove NetTools and show you how that works. I don't believe in NetTools anymore. If you're gonna use ifconfig, that's not okay, you know. So let's see if we can remove NetTools. What's it called? NetTools. Is it installed by default? I would figure it shouldn't be installed if I didn't say it should be. It's not in the list here. Huh. I remember I used to use a tool called iptraf sometimes too. There we go. So that's not installed. Let's install iptraf and see how that works. So I add one line to my configuration. So right now I've got this mounted over SSHFS. It's just easier this way versus like working on the local machine. So I say, hey, I want to install iptraf. I run sudo nixos rebuild switch, and then wait. And what'll happen is it will figure out what needs to be built and downloaded and etc. And it will go ahead and install that package. I feel like I remember iptraf or nethogs, one of the two, like seg faulting on one of my machines, and I can't remember why. So maybe this will work. Oh, you know what we could have installed? We could have installed like Hollywood or C-Matrix. Those are good ones too. So again, I think it takes just a sec for the system to figure it out because this is a low power like AMD CPU. But as far as like things that need to actually do builds or compiles, it'll all go to the server, which is nice. So my machine right now is calculating what it needs to fetch, and then it will tell the server to do the work. There we go. So it looks like we're copying a bunch of packages from the NixOS cache, so I don't think we're going to have to compile anything. Certain programs like Grafana and etc. actually require a lot of compiling, which is a hassle. So definitely you want a remote builder if you don't have a high power CPU for this. Okay, looks like it's almost done. And now we should have iptraf available. So unable to tag this process. Hey, there we go. So as you can see, we have iptraf. Let's see here. IP traffic. Oh, buffer overflow detected. Yeah, that's good. So I think it was iptraf that was like segfaulting. Anyway, you can see it worked. And now if we remove iptraf, let's install like CMatrix. That'll be silly, right? I imagine this package. Hey, Geekodower, thank you for following. Appreciate it. By the way, so for those who are hanging out here, like Twitch followers and etc., I am working on emotes. They are very silly. Hopefully Twitch will approve them in a few days. I have a friend who's an artist and she's going to make much nicer ones, but I drew some emotes on paper, which will be pretty funny, at least for the meantime. So let's see if CMatrix. It is. Okay, okay, perfect. So now we are going to install CMatrix, and it's going to remove iptraf because iptraf is no longer present in the config. So again, this will just take a little bit. It's usually pretty quick. How are you all doing today? Hope everyone's having a good Sunday. I know for us US folks, we've got a day off tomorrow, which is pretty nice. So I'm planning on most likely doing a stream tomorrow, I think 1 p.m. US Eastern. I will probably work on the Elgato stuff. That being said, I might go a little earlier too. We'll see. But it's been fun doing these weekend streams. In the meantime, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. It takes a little bit to switch the configs, unfortunately, but that's just the case with the smaller system. Right, so it's pulling CMatrix. 8:40 a.m. in bed and planning to sleep soon. Wow, so you stay up all night? I've definitely done that a few times, but I try not to make it a habit anymore. I figured this is going to be pretty early for the West Coast folks. Like my, one of my moderators is probably sleeping still, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about chat getting rowdy. So now, iptraf is gone, and CMatrix is installed. So there we go. That's the power of NixOS. So this applies to not only packages, but the entire operating system, which is very cool. So first of all, let's commit that. I'll do that down here. It's just easier if I do it from my workstation instead because I've got my aliases. NixOS. Add CMatrix. And push. Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and work on that VLAN. So I think probably what I want to do is introduce the Go program I'm using to generate some of my configs. So this is kind of a mess. There are lots of things in here that will panic immediately on exit, but the idea is I want to declare my network configuration a certain way and then do things like IP address math to figure things out. So we're going to create a new subnet, and we are going to not have any machines in it yet, but we're going to create a new subnet and put it on a new VLAN interface for the 10 gig machines. So let's see here. I guess we'll just add it to the list, right? So you can't start an interface name like as cool as it would be to do like 10 GBO. I don't think that works. So we could do 10 GBO, maybe like that, something like that. Oh yeah, that's my current schedule. Would usually sleep while my sister and mother were away, and I do my work while everyone sleeps so it's not be disturbed. Works perfectly so far, although everyone is now home all day due to COVID-19. Yeah, totally. It's taken an adjustment period for me too. Like my girlfriend and I live together, and we've been both working from home now for at least. I've been working from home for 6 years now, so it's been a long time for me. But now that she's working from home, it's taken an adjustment period for sure. So yeah, let's call this like 10 GBO or 10 GBE. Oh, that's fine. 10 GBO. We'll put this on. So actually, I can improve this script today. Probably that would be kind of nice. I have a convention here I've been following. So basically, my ISP charter gives me a /56 IPv6 prefix. I have a /48 local or unique local address prefix. And also I have my V4, of course. So my convention is that the third octet of the V4 matches the VLAN ID. The, oh gosh, what is this? Bits 48 through 56 match the VLAN ID, but we use the decimal representation instead of hex. So for example, VLAN 66 has 3266, even though in hex, I'm sure this does not equal 66. And then for the ULA, again, it's just like an entire hextet represents the VLAN ID. So I should make it so this is all computed. Like I say, 10 GBO, like ID 10, and it computes all of this for me. But for the time being, this script is kind of hacky. So the global prefix here will be 3210. The unique local will be 10 as well. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I kind of like that convention. It just helps me keep track of like the location, like the locality of some machines, right? So we're going to apply this 10 gig interface with this subnet configuration. So, oh, wait a sec. Didn't I just, this won't work actually, because I just created the new LAN in VLAN 10 because my Ubiquiti gear will not allow me to use VLAN 1. So I think I was actually going to put this in 100 instead. So what I want is 100.0. So, and now we're out of space here. That's sad. So now the convention is going to break down a little bit. This will work because we have this entire 16 bits to work with. But for here, we only have 8 bits. So, and 3210 is already in use by this. Shoot. I guess I could do like 32... like A0, right? This could be like, this kind of means like 10, like 100. So A0 would be like, 100. It's a little weird, but I guess it'll work, right? I mean, ultimately these things are all going into like DNS anyway. Oh, cool. I've done absolutely nothing with V6 so far, but I'd love for it to catch on sooner rather than later so I can start. Yeah, V6 is catching on in a big way. So this is pretty cool. One sec. Wrong browser. Google IPv6 usage. So I did a talk a couple of years ago about the V6 like penetration, and it's actually gotten substantial. Especially like you can see when people started working from home, there is a lot more V6 usage on Google's machines because typically people at home will have V6, but they won't have it at work. So how's that? There we go. So the V6 penetration on Google services is roughly 30%. And as you can see over the past 6 or 7 years, it's really taken off. So V6 is here. And lots of things work fine with V6, so I recommend getting to know it. It's not as hard as you think it's going to be, and it gives you a lot of cool flexibility that you just don't have with V4. So I would definitely set it up. If your ISP supports it, like all the big cable ISPs pretty much do. Yeah, I don't know. It's just going to depend on like your ISP, really. But for me, I have an entire /56 for my network, which is very cool. So I take advantage of that. Oh, don't have it at home. Gotcha. That's a bummer. So back to this. This is fine. A0, I guess. Hey, good morning. How you doing? And if I remember here, I shouldn't need to add anything else. And if I run my generator script now, it should effectively modify the things in the way I need. Yeah, thanks. I'm doing well. I'm having a really good time. I broke my network briefly this morning because I forgot to apply a VLAN config on a switch, but hey, we're good. So I won't forget it this time around. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not going to show you all the Ubiquiti configuration because, well, for one, we've got some personal data in there, but for two, it's just not that interesting. Like, I'm basically going to say, okay, VLAN 100, and it's going to be done. So it's really not that interesting. The NixOS configuration stuff is going to be a lot more fun anyway. Let's see here. So I want to navigate over here. So I do have Go on the router as well, but since I've got Go here, we're on SSHFS, I can run my generator script. Okay. So now that we've added this interface, the vars JSON is now populated with a 10 GBO interface that we can start referencing in our configs. So V4 192.168.101. Yep. V6 ULA. Yeah, looks good to me. I wonder how this is going to work for prefix delegation. So I've had to do some weird math to make certain prefix delegation type things work. We'll get to that. But now we actually have this interface available in our configuration, so we can go through and add this everywhere it needs to be added. So probably just start going down the list, I guess. Let's see. More people than I expected interested in watching me configure my router. Pretty cool. Does your router run Router 7? No. So I actually run the same hardware as Router 7, but I am using NixOS. So this is the configurations for NixOS. It is a fully declarative Linux operating system. It is very cool. I think Router 7 is an amazing project. I think I didn't realize at the time that Router 7 ran on the hardware I had bought, but I wanted the ability to kind of configure my router in a declarative way. So Router 7 would be quite interesting as well, and I think that if I ever get another APU, I'll probably run Router 7, even just as a lab, just to play with things. But I am using NixOS. So I need to go ahead and add this interface wherever the other ones are. So let's see. Let's look for LAN 0. Right. I don't know why it's not sorted. So pretty much anywhere that LAN 0 appears in the configs, I'm going to need to add this one as well. Could run Router 7 in QEMU on NixOS. That's true. I don't really care about MDNS reflection. So, okay, core DNS. So with most NixOS things, typically you will try to have more of a declarative configuration, but for some services with a more complicated configuration, often you'll have like an inline configuration file like this. But what's cool is you can do kind of like NixOS like templating and loops. So I actually have it set up here so that for core DNS, I will generate internal DNS records for all of the machines listed under servers and infrastructure, as well as the router itself. So anywhere the LAN interface appears, we need to consider adding the 10 gig interface as well. I don't think we need it in this particular case. And core DNS is already binding to all interfaces, so we can skip that. We're good. So CoreRad, this is the module I wrote myself. This is my router advertisement daemon running on my router. I want to start advertising prefixes for the 10 gig VLAN. So let's remove the version number. CoreRad beta. So for each of these VLANs, we run. Hey Boris, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. So for every interface, we create the interface in CoreRad, we begin advertising on it. We say we want to enable other config because we want to be able to do things like pixie boot. Talking about daemon, how can I write a daemon in Go? Write normal code and use systemd. I know that a lot of the older daemons used to be able to demonize themselves. I'm not convinced it's worth the trouble these days. I recommend just writing a service that can run in your terminal or whatever, and then just use systemd to run it, honestly. I'm not familiar with any new projects that are demonizing themselves. So for each interface, we advertise all of the prefixes with /64 subnet mask. So this will be the global prefix I'm adding here through delegation, as well as the unique local prefix. On the opposite, systemd allows you to easily tweak the demonization process in terms of sandboxing. Yes. My systemd not reading AWS keys. I'm not totally sure what you mean. So, yes, we want to add the 10 gig LAN here. So, what's it called? 10 GBO, right? Is that what we called it? Yes. So now, whenever I run this configuration again, the CoreRad configuration will be templated out in such a way where the 10 gig interface is also advertising prefixes. rsync D sandboxing example. Cool. Yeah, I know you can do lots and lots of sandboxing with systemd. I have only done the very basics, but I'm aware there's a ton of flexibility there, so that's definitely worth checking out. Oh, created a systemd service when it runs. I'm getting an error, access denied. I suspect it's probably due to the environment, the environment being different, you're not passing an environment variable or something in a way it likes. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert and I can't help. I have no idea what kind of code you're writing, but I've had lots of success with doing this sort of thing. Okay, we need Dhcp V4 as well, because as much as I would love to run V6 only, we're not there. So 10 GB0, the interface name needs to be added to the list of interfaces that we serve on. And we want to advertise subnets for it as well. So 10 GBO. Okay. So what's also cool about NixOS is you can do things like functions. So for example, this make host is a function which will produce a configuration using my templates in the format that this expects. So there's this machines configuration in here. So what I say is that for each infrastructure machine plus servers, call this make host function, and it will map over that entire array. And then I'm actually able to unpack this into the format the DHCP daemon expects, and I can set up like static leases in this way, which is pretty cool. And of course, you do have the regular templated configuration. Again, not everything is NixOS or Nixified, especially with the more complicated daemons. Oh yeah, this is annoying. So the Dhcp V4 daemon does not speak CIDR notation, so I have to just remove the last octet and then template it, which seems kind of silly to me, but I guess that's because in IPv4, you can have non-contiguous subnet masks, which sounds like a total nightmare. So no thanks. Never, keep that far away from my networks. So you can't use CIDR notation here because it needs to be able to support non-contiguous subnet masks. So yeah, not for me, thanks. Okay, v6, moving on. Same thing. So we need to serve DHCP V6, so we can do things like Pixie Boot. So the only thing I use DHCP V6 for is advertising additional options like Pixie Boot. I don't actually use it for address assignment at all because you can use core rad and its stateless address auto configuration via V6 to do this in a more effective and V6 native way. So this V6 DHCP server is here clearly or solely so that clients can get more configuration for things like Pixie Boot. So for example, you have your name servers as well, but we don't actually need that because the router advertisements possess those as well. But then when you have the boot file URL, domain search, etc. Oh, right. Yeah, so for some reason the TFTP server, like built into NixOS or something, does not work with V6, and I have no idea why. I've been meaning to fix that, but I'm gonna grab some more water. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. It's kind of funny. I was looking for my headphones for a minute because I thought we were still on a video call because yesterday we did the pair programming stream with Stoffelberg, but they're sitting over there because I don't need them today. So I was like, oh, shoot, but we're good. Where were we? Okay, so DHCP v6, yes, done. Next up, the networking configs. Cool. So this is one of the more complicated files. I think the most complicated is my nftables rules, but this is definitely up there as well. So we need to delegate DHCP v6 prefix delegation for this new VLAN as well. So one sec. So what I've got going on here is some kind of strange math. Effectively, we need to translate the VLAN ID to... We need to translate like whichever address we're using to the right like format for this. Like this is really weird. So for example, my IoT VLAN is VLAN 66, which is 102 decimal translated into hex, I believe. What's the, oh shoot, what was it? BC, right? So this is, let's see if I remember what we learned the other day. So BC, oh, we don't have it. Okay, let's install it. This would probably be good to have on all the systems as well. So I'll put this in the shared folder. I'm going to get the math wrong here like 10 times because I'm Twitch streaming and not thinking. Are you configuring this router for the first time? How are you doing this without looking at any documentation roadmap? No. So I have been working on this router's configuration since December. So I am just adding a new VLAN today, but I've built up this configuration over the course of months. So no, I'm definitely not doing this for the first time. The thing is I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the options now, and since we're already doing things like adding VLANs, network interfaces, firewall rules, I kind of have the framework in place to do those sorts of things. So this is basically as simple as adding a new variable in places that it needs to go. So it's going to take a bit of fussing around, but ultimately it shouldn't be that bad. I'm not sure if Dominic is around today, but Dominic and I think Michael have taught me how to use BC like 3 times, and I'm going to keep forgetting. So do you need iBase first or OBase? I can't remember. Is it OBase first, I think? I guess I'll find out. Yeah, this is gonna be silly, but so what I need to do is figure out what the appropriate decimal incantation is here for the hex ID I'm going to be using. Where is it? Network. Oh, networking config. Right. There we go. Oh, shoot. I just realized we already enabled the... that's going to break things, isn't it? Yep, we need to roll that back. So this is actually kind of nice, too. Systemctl status Dhcp V4. It's running. Okay. Interesting. 6. I guess it's not broken. I'm actually surprised. I would have expected it to be. Huh. Okay, well, how about core rad? Yeah, see, this isn't going to work. Okay, need to back that out so I don't break my V6. I think, thankfully, I'm streaming to Twitch with V4, but yeah, this is the disadvantage if you're doing like multiple changes at once. Like, I probably shouldn't have installed that package because it's going to, mess with things. So, briefly, let's pull this out from here. Just for now. We will comment these out, get this back to a steady state, and then we'll go back to where we were. As far as I know, there's no way to like apply just a part of the configuration because ideally you want the entire configuration to be applied as a unit. So this is just my mistake. I could have just used BC locally. That probably would have been the smarter idea. But anyway, we'll fix it. But in the meantime, we can start thinking about that that ID. So let's see here. So the input base needs to be 16 because we want to translate the... Does O base need to be first? I think it does. So O base equals 10, I base equals 16. So I want A0, right? Is that what we had? That's not right. Base equals 16, O base equals 10, A0. Doesn't seem right. Because A is 10. I think I'm using this wrong. I've only used BC a couple of times, and I'm not very good at it. So I think now we'll be, let's see here. Okay. We're good. Everything's back to the way it was. We can go ahead and add these statements back. Yep. And yep. Okay. And there we go. 10 GBO. Sure. So, what am I doing wrong here? I don't remember how to use BC. C, I base, O base. Let's pull up some documentation. Oh, you can do this all. Okay, quit. You can pipe stuff to it. That looks like it's going to be easier for me actually versus the interactive interface. So echo ibase equals. So the input base is 16, and then we're going to do A0 piped into BC. 160. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is the value we want. We want the 160th prefix within my /56 to be delegated to this interface. Because I have up to 255 available because each prefix that we advertise is a /64 and each prefix is a /64 and we have 256 available because we're delegated a /56. So that's 8 bits worth of prefixes. Right. Okay, so we want prefix 160 is the one we're looking for here. And this will give it the address that we are assuming in our configurations. So, 10 GBO, name 160/64. Yep. So for those who aren't as familiar with V6, the way that most ISPs are doing dual stack these days is you will send a DHCP V6 request from your router, and that will give your router its globally accessible V6 address, but also your router can request to be delegated a prefix. So it will say, hey, I am a router for this network. Give me a prefix of addresses I can assign to machines within my networks. So when I send this to Charter, they give me an entire /56 that they are now routing to my network. So I can take anything or any prefixes from that /56 and subnet them out into individual /64s, or even smaller if you really want to advertise on different networks. So I can create up to 256 VLANs and give them all globally accessible IPv6 addresses, which is very cool. So ideally it would be a /48. That would be nice, but a /56 is still pretty good. So that will do the prefix delegation, which is great. We need to call this make interface thing, which creates the network interface with the /24 address as well as the /64s. Okay, 10 gigabit. Interface 10 GBO. And we need to add the VLAN as well. And this is going to be VLAN 100 because it is 10 times as much as VLAN 10. That's the point there. 10 gigabit, and the physical interface it lives on is ENP2S0, which is the physical LAN interface on the machine. VLAN ID of 100, so all the traffic will be tagged with VLAN 100, which the switches will recognize, and things will just work. So, this is the WireGuard stuff. Oh, I was really concerned for a sec I had a private key right here in the config, but I don't, thankfully. There is the private key file, so no snooping Twitch viewers. There is one file I can't show you, but I think it just has like password hashes, so it's not even that big of a deal. Right, NF tables. So this is where things get complicated. Again, you can't really express this with Nix, so I have all of this syntax for doing so. The basic idea is I have my LANs grouped into trusted, limited, and untrusted configurations. So for trusted LANs, we assume that they are not doing anything malicious and they are able to send out full traffic no matter what. So this is basically like my primary LAN, my WireGuard LAN, and the infrastructure machines, which I should probably actually limit a little bit, and the lab LAN, because the lab I really just do whatever. I have the limited LANs, which are allowed just a certain number of ports, so things like email, HTTP, etc., SSH, but they're not allowed to do things like, file sharing, because I've had friends come to my house and run file sharing clients and get me DMCA notices before. So the limited LANs block lots of outgoing things. And then the untrusted LANs are things like IoT devices, things like the Chromecast, the Elgato Keylight, etc. Those are allowed to do very, very limited type of things. Oh boy. Phone's exploding. You self-host. Self-host what? So I self-host some things, like I self-host things like Plex, Grafana, Prometheus, but in general, like I don't self-host websites. Like I think it's kind of pointless when there are things like Netlify, which can do a much better job and with much better availability. I'm going to tweak this light a little bit. There we go. That looks better. Yeah, so I self-host some services, like mostly like monitoring things, but excuse me, nothing too fancy. So the 10 gig interface will be considered a trusted LAN as well. So that will put it into all the firewall configurations in the right way. And I don't actually know if I'm going to need to modify any of this. This is complicated. I'd rather not get into the details. You're welcome to come look at this in my homelab repo in GitHub. I think that should pretty much just work. Adding it to that array will insert all the right rules so it's considered trusted and things will just work. Excuse me. Traffic, don't need to touch, and this is not even being used yet. So for WireGuard, you right now have to assign addresses statically, which is fine, but there is an interest in making a project called WG Dynamic, which can assign addresses dynamically over WireGuard. You cannot run things like DHCP or neighbor discovery because WireGuard operates at the IP layer and not Ethernet. So there's actually a prototype built which allows this to work. And I actually wrote Go code that can do that too. So I wanted to create a Go daemon that could do this sort of thing and hook into other IPAM systems. So my WG IPAMD project is on GitHub as well. It's kind of on halt at the moment because the WG Dynamic project has not been progressing as much. But once it picks up steam again, I will get back to work on this for sure. Right. So I'm pretty sure with all these changes. Hey, good morning. Welcome. With all these changes, I'm pretty sure we're at the point now where we will have a 10 gig VLAN applied when I switch configurations. So let's check. So we have our Go code generator. We added BC. We have our Go code generator. We have the output of the generator, which gives us a new 10 gig interface with this V4, these V6. We advertise prefixes from it with core rad. We advertise DHCP V4. We advertise DHCP V6. We delegate a prefix to it using DHCP V6 prefix delegation. We enable the interface on the machine. We create the Vlan interface with ID 100 so all the traffic is tagged properly. And we add it to the NF tables. So I'm pretty sure if I switch this configuration and we wait, we will come up with a 10 gig capable VLAN. I don't have the 10 gig gear yet, but this means that tomorrow I can basically plug things in and they'll immediately come up and we'll be able to see addresses and everything populated just fine, which would be pretty cool. So let's give that a sec to run and see what happens. Does anybody have any questions about NixOS in general? So I know I'm not covering a lot of the basics today. To be honest, there's just a lot to learn, but it's pretty cool. This is definitely worth checking out if you are interested in this whole like declarative Linux sort of thing. I'm definitely a big fan. I've had a lot of fun doing it. Again, both my router, which we're working on today, as well as my server run it. The server does things like hosting Prometheus and etc. How do you normally benchmark network speed? Just iPerf 3. I mean, so this is going to be LAN only, so my wireless or my main uplink is just 1 gig, of course. So this is going to be purely for local file transfers, so just iPerf probably. Although I imagine with a big enough file like NFS, I can probably move. I can probably saturate the speed of my hard drives at least. So I've got hard drives running in ZFS over there, and they can definitely do more than 1 gigabit. I don't think they can do 10, so we'll see. So NixOS has figured everything out. You will see it's bringing up a network link service called 10GB0, all these things. It's reloading all of these services which had their configurations changed. So with any luck, this will come up and we will have a new network interface. Very exciting. And I think really quick, I'm going to look into the Ubiquity changes as well while it's fresh on my mind. Again, I don't really want to show this on stream because it's not that interesting. It's just a couple of like clicks in the UI, and also I've got some private data in here. Oh, let's see. This is going to be wired exclusively, so I don't even need a new Wi-Fi network. I'm running all Ubiquity switches and access points. I used to run the Ubiquity Edge Router Lite as well, and it's a good machine. It's just I wanted more flexibility, so I could run things like Core Rad and Core DNS. So NixOS is great for that. VLAN only, VLAN 100. So it looks like it's starting up all these systemd units. Sometimes takes a little while, you know. And then tomorrow, whenever I get the gear, I'm going to have to apply the appropriate profiles so that the 10 gig switch traffic is tagged. Okay, there we go. So, moment of truth. Can I just use the Nix package manager as a replacement for the system package manager? Yes, you can. So Nix actually can be installed on things like Ubuntu. It is very cool. I've done that briefly myself, so I know that's a thing you can do. I don't know how well it integrates with the rest of the system compared to something like a NixOS configuration, because in NixOS, like Nix is your package manager, but I'm pretty sure it works pretty well on other operating systems too, although I've never actually tried in a real way. IP address show dev 10GBO. And there we go. So you can see now we have a new 10 gigabit 0 VLAN device running on top of the physical ENP2S0 with these IP addresses assigned. Looks like the prefix delegation didn't work, or do I have to restart that? One sec. Let's check IoT. So for whatever reason, sometimes the DHCP CD, so the DHCP client daemon, mouthful, right? Doesn't seem to delegate prefixes, so it looks like my prefixes, my global, have dropped from my VLANs, which is not great. So let's give that a kick really quick. Start DHCP CD. And there we go. So you can see now we have this global prefix. We have 32A0. I'm pretty sure that's what we specified, right? Let's see here. Main.go. 32, so 10 GBO 32A0::/64. Perfect. So now what I will see is daemons such as corrad should pick that up. So journal control. No, actually, let's curl it. So curl. So I have a fancy JQ one-liner I'm going to try and find from my Twitter because I just don't want to recreate it right now. Let's see. There it is. Okay. You ready for this? So we are going to ask corrad what router advertisements is going to generate for every interface, and we're going to see which prefixes it is currently serving. Actually, we can just, we don't even need to do this anymore. We can do it through the Prometheus metrics, which is even easier. So 9430 metrics -s grep prefix info. So as you can see, we are serving two for the management LAN, 2 for guest, one for IoT. That's weird. 1 for lab, 2 for LAN, 2 for 10 gig. Okay, so it looks like some of our prefixes didn't apply. IPAS dev IOTO. That's so weird. Let's give this another kick. That is quite strange. That's not what I would expect. So for some reason, we're not delegating global v6 prefixes appropriately to a couple of the interfaces, the lab and the IoT. That's weird. I guess we can look at the logs, right? So I think we're done with that for now. Let's go to full screen. So journal, control, FU, love it. DHCP CD. Yep. Okay. It's getting router advertisements from upstream. Cool. Let's give it a kick and see what it says on startup. Shoot. Give that a go. See what happens. Okay, so is this one of those things where I have to remove the DUID file? I guess we'll see. Reject route. Okay, so this is my 56. Delegated prefix, right? So, okay. ENP2, guest, LAN, 10 gig, ENP2, guest, LAN. Why is it not doing IoT or lab? They're configured. That's strange. It's like it's skipping some of the prefixes I'm configuring. I'm going to make this text smaller just for the time being so I can read these logs a little better. My apologies. Let's see here. So I don't understand right now why we are not seeing all of the prefixes delegated because, okay, ENP2, lab, guest, LAN, IoT, 10 gig. So all of those are being applied in the configuration at least. This is something I learned recently. So if you do systemctl cat, you can actually see the unit file, which is pretty convenient. So in NixOS, all of the config files and things live in the Nix store, which is hard to find. So it's easy to fish them out this way. So let's look at this configuration file and just see what's being generated. I'm just very curious why it would be ignoring this. Yeah, so ENP2, lab, guest, LAN, IoT, 10 gig. So it's like just ignoring 2 of these. Why? I have no idea. That's so strange. If anybody here is familiar with DHCP CD, I would be curious to hear what you have to say. Crap, add 6. No, it's not what I want. I just have no idea why it's not delegating to some of my VLANs, you know? And WireGuard's not actually delegated, it's just done manually at the moment because there's like an ordering issue. Yeah, IoT, lab, guest, LAN. That's so weird. Yeah, I'm pretty confused about this. It was working fine before. And in theory, I have up to 256 different interfaces I could delegate a prefix to, which is, you know, more than you need. So, oh, var lib dhcp. No. Where would this live? Yeah, this is odd. I'm not sure. I don't really have a clue why this would do that. Excuse me. This thing has been finicky for a while. It's kind of annoying, actually. Like, I wouldn't mind looking at different, maybe like systemd, networkd, but doing that on a stream would be chaos, you know, because I could probably just drop my drop my internet link and then it's gone, you know. Well, I think what we have right now works, or it should be working, so I'm going to commit this as is, and then maybe look at making more changes. But it's so strange because it was working just fine before. I wonder if this is one of those annoying things where you need to give it like a reboot. I guess that would be something for after the stream. Okay. It did not take away the delegations, right? Let's see here. Yeah, so I had a problem before where if I shut this down, it would wipe out all the IPs and suddenly I have no network connectivity, which is not great. Yeah, I wonder if there's just like some stale state being cached somewhere. Let's see, where does this thing store its state? So DHCP CD. DHCP CD least storage? No. DUID. I think I had to look at this before. So verilib DHCP CD. Okay, verilib DH. But that doesn't exist here. VerDB. Right, that seems familiar. Okay. So now, I don't think there's gonna be anything sensitive in these files. Let me check really quick and then I'll show you all. Oh, it's just binary anyway. I really don't want to wipe out the DUID file. So I had an issue before where when I swapped my, what was it? I had to change something on my network and I had to wipe the DUID file in order to get the, I think I had to get, in order to get the delegations working, and it changed my entire /56 prefix, which is not great. Like, in theory, you should never really have to change your v6 like prefix at all. Like, there should be enough addresses where every customer gets their prefix forever, but I don't know why Charter does it this way. I don't really want to do that. It could be very, very troublesome if I break things right now on stream, so let's see what's happening. Yeah, that's so weird. So there's no v6 connectivity being advertised for the lab or the IoT LANs. Well, I guess it's okay. I think this is probably gonna be something I'm gonna have to deal with off stream. I don't want to potentially take the network down right now. This is one of those things where sometimes like rebooting will fix like spooky caching, whatever stuff. It's a nuisance, but such is life. Did I ever bring this back up? It stopped. Okay. Let's start it one more time and tail the logs. Yeah, it's like it's literally just ignoring some of my VLANs. Like I've got them all specified, but I don't see anything in there about IoT or lab. And I have no idea why that would be the case. Maybe there's a bug. I mean, right? Oh, wait a sec. Cannot delegate to... What in the world? What do you mean? There's no such device. This seems fishy. So IoT and lab definitely exist, and they haven't went away. What in the world? I'm not crazy, right? Like, I saw those interfaces in the configuration just now. That's so weird. Why would it not think that they exist? Maybe there is some cached state here somewhere I'm just missing. Let's do some quick Googling just in case, but DHCP CD cannot delegate to oh boy. What did I say? There's a bunch of options in here. Let's see what we could look at. This is so strange. Because it was working just fine before I added the 10 gig interface. Wait IP. Oh. Cannot delegate to. So it looks like this person may have had a similar issue. There's a gist here. I wonder where this is linked from. Oh, interesting. We got people splunking the source here. Nice. One sec. I am not a C programmer, so 3745. Yes. IF finds coming back with null. That's so weird. Yeah, that would be the error I'm seeing. So %s cannot delegate to %s. So, oops, sorry. So this interface cannot delegate to this interface, no such device or address. That doesn't make sense to me, though. So this IF find, here we go. Yeah, that's the... So I wonder... You know, I kind of wondered, like, so Linux refers to the... So if I do IP-IPLS dev IOTO. Hello? PL dev IOTO at ENP2SO. What's the syntax here? Either way, you can see the devices clearly exist, and we don't have to specify like the physical interface or anything for the rest of them. So what's the difference here? The flags look identical to me. They're all up. So it's reading the configuration, but something about it can't find the configuration. Can't find it. Yeah, I think this might be one of those magic things that goes away after a reboot, but I don't want to reboot my router on stream. Let's do something else. I don't want to spend all day on this. Thank you for the help, though. I do appreciate it. Yeah, let's commit this as we have it. So yeah, so I take it the at part of lab at isn't messing it up at all, and instead just looking for labo. I've never seen that at before. Yeah, so I've been referring to these interfaces for a long time without the at, because you'll see like on the system, like Linux shows them as IOTO at this, but lots of other software is totally fine with just binding to like that. So for example, if I do like ping 6, I'm trying to think of like a command address for like, so for example, if I like TCP dump -I IOTO UDP port 67 or UDP port 68, so DHCP traffic, right? Then this will actually work just fine. Oh, like that works just fine. If I specify it with the qualifier, it does not work. So I have no idea. I'm pretty sure this is like a netlink thing. Like it's showing like the route netlink is showing that, but you don't actually need it in general. It's kind of funny now. I kind of want to switch to I think I kind of just want to switch to like systemd networkd and get rid of this DHCP-CD stuff, because I've had so many problems with this thing. So I'll probably end up doing that. But yeah, thank you for looking at the code. I appreciate that. Oh shoot, that's not what I wanted to do. That's okay. Yeah, let's commit this back on my machine because I have my configuration in place. So, right, star. Vlan 100. Perfect. In the meantime, like I could manually assign the v6 addresses, but I guess I don't really care. Like it's the lab VLAN and the IoT VLANs, which are like kind of like meh, you know? Like as long as I have v6 on my primary one, I don't really care as much. So I'll deal with it, but it's fine in the meantime. So cool, that is pushed to GitHub. I should actually set up a CI build for NixOS somehow. I don't know how to do that actually, but... Oh, and there is a formatter as well. We should definitely be running that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it has something called Hydra for CI. Yes, it does. I actually haven't set up a Hydra instance. Maybe I should, but... Okay, let's format the files. So I guess now that we've added this VLAN, we could take a look at the... what else was I gonna do today? Maybe some of my Prometheus stuff on my server? I don't know. Let's take a look at that really quick and see if that's something we want to tackle. Michael, if you're still around, are you still going to start streaming in about half an hour? Because I'm not planning on streaming for super long today. Because we could send you a raid. Yeah, so if we check this out, this is how I have my Prometheus rules all defined now. Basically, this is all templated using like the Nix language. So we have things like the black box exporter. We've got static targets here for things like core DNS and core rad. We've got node exporters running on different machines, OBS, all kinds of fun. And I actually wrote all of my alerts now. So because this is so silly, because YAML parsers can read JSON, I am taking my my alert syntax here. This is supposed to be strings. So I am writing Nix rules, converting them to JSON, which can be parsed as YAML, and then they're being parsed as a string here. So this whole thing is kind of silly, but it lets me use the nice Nix language here. So I have all kinds of alerts for problems like interfaces being misconfigured. Yeah, right. So many levels of indirection. We have alerts for things like TLS certificates nearing expiration, or when a disk's usage is high, or if an interface is misconfigured. I can show you all some of my Grafana dashboards really quick, I guess. We can see how things look today. Let's see. How do I want to do this? All right, give me a sec. What's the phrase? It's turtles all the way down. Ah, shoot, that's not what I wanted. Nope. Come on, last pass. Okay. So this is Grafana running on my server. Let's see here. Home. Where are my dashboards? Hello? There we go. So if I pull it up, for example, we can see, for example, the current status of the stream. Pretty cool, huh? So we can see like, oh, I'm recording to both Twitch right now as well as FFmpeg locally, 30 frames per second. We're not dropping any frames today, thankfully. Microphone levels, frame rendering times, yeah, a bunch of cool stuff. And what I wanted to show you was the core Rad dashboards. Now you can actually see, I've got this set up to show like what's going on in each network. So we can see things like the number of router advertisements being triggered, which of our interfaces are configured. So you'll see here that all 6 of the different interfaces, like we have 6 LANs now, wow, are all running core Rad. They are advertising various prefixes. Again, the IoT and the lab are only advertising 1 for some reason, because DHCP CD is a weird piece of software. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. I think it's pretty fun to like add Prometheus metrics to stuff, you know. Is there anything else I have worth showing off? How about node exporter? Yeah, so you can see the temperatures of everything. So kernel 5.6 actually has now built-in support for SATA drive temperatures, which is awesome. So this drive temp module, those stream stats are hilarious. Yeah, real-time super meta stream stats. But kernel 5.6 has it built in so that you can actually see drive temperatures using the LM sensors stuff, which is awesome. So you can see the temperatures of all the drives in my system, stuff like that. Let's see here. You can tell exactly when I started streaming because the temperatures on my desktop rise pretty dramatically. Yeah, all kinds of fun. Cool. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, we're back. So I think that I don't really think that there's any like more like NixOS specifically I want to do today. I think I might work on my Go code generator a little bit because it's kind of a hack, and that could definitely be improved. So, let's see here. Yeah, so this is my vargen. Oh, I actually need to move this. So for those of you who follow me on GitHub and etc., one sec. What's it called? MD layer netx, right? I just created this new repository I call netx. This is kind of my collection of small networking packages for Go. So I've had some things before, like my RFC 4193, which generates /48s for unique local addresses. Multinet, which is like a multiple net listener thing, and then EUI64, which we use to generate IPv6 addresses from the MAC address and a prefix. I moved a lot of my smaller packages to this netx repo, so check this out. There might be a couple things in here that are kind of interesting for you. So we need to start using this in the code generator because I removed the netx repo totally. So let's get back to that. Go away. There we go. MD layer netx, right? That should work. And let's go over here. So of course this thing has no tests. You know, if you see me on any of my Go streams, I'm always going crazy about how everything needs tests and all that. But this is this was definitely like a quick and dirty thing. I want to clean it up a little bit. I think that's what we're gonna do now. But you know, it's fine. It works. Does this work? Yeah. Cool. So I think what I want to do is try and deduplicate some of the logic here, right? So we talked about earlier how, oh yeah, inconsistency. I should change that. So I think what I want to do is fix this up a bit so that we can encode that logic I was talking about earlier. So for example, like the VLAN with ID 10 gets encoded as the third octet, or this part of the /56, or this part of the /48. I think I want to try and encode that logic so we can do that in less of a pain in the neck way. So we can make it so that like a subnet has a VLAN ID and everything else is like a computed property of that. I think that would be kind of useful, right? I guess it's not that big of a deal, but could potentially show off some of the stuff we've been working on as far as the, what do you call it? The NetAdder package and stuff like that. Or we could start playing with the keylight. I don't know if I really want to get into that today. I mean, I guess I could, but I feel like if I start doing that, I'm going to be in it for a while. What do you all think? What do you all want to see? We could play with the light. I mean, we could at least do the basics, like start getting the repo ready for tomorrow, because I'm planning on working on it on stream tomorrow, but I've got plans this afternoon, so we're not going to be streaming for too much longer. You know, maybe another hour? I don't know. I think Michael was starting up around in like 20 minutes, so we'll probably send him a raid. But in the meantime, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to talk about anything we've done today. There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, we will send you a raid when we wrap up here. Hello? Git add star. There we go. I want to commit this on my local machine instead because it's going to be less of a pain in the neck. NixOS lib vargen. Sounds great. Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your stream as well. I'm gonna have to leave not too long into it probably. I've got plans today, but it'll be fun to hang out. So lib vargen. New location for net EUI64 package. Yep. Okay. Yeah, there's some kind of weird stuff about this too. Like, for example, the WAN interface, the internet-facing one, is listed as an interface here, but it's not really that. It doesn't have a lot of the same properties. So I've kind of had this configuration file like kicking around for a while, and I think there's like some inconsistencies I want to fix, but it's just not been a big priority, you know? Can I get rid of any code? Actually, I think this can go away now. I think I could actually remove this because we fixed this upstream. Let's see here. Go generate git diff. Hey, perfect. So I had code in here before for those who are familiar with Go. There we go. So if you add a marshal JSON method to a type, you can specify how it marshals itself to JSON. So what I had here is these NetAdder IP prefixes were being marshaled into individual fields. So it'd have things like an IP address string and a CIDR field and stuff like that. But what I really wanted was the stringified version of that. So what I had to do here was call the string method and then return that. This is kind of gross, but I've actually fixed that now upstream, so this is no longer needed. So if I go to IP prefix, we have, hello? Huh. Doesn't see, oh, we're on the SSHFS mount, yeah. I guess I'll show you all really quick. inetaf, NetAdder. inetaf, love it. So this is an IP address package that myself and some of the Tailscale folks have been working on. Due to some of our annoyances with the standard library, especially the net IP 216 and 24 thing, for those who have done any networking stuff in Go, you will know how annoying it is to figure out if something is actually a v6 address or similar. So the idea is here is that they have these, excuse me. We have this net, this stream is inetaf, my dudes. Yes, I totally agree. VIP this man. Oh, he already is. So we have this IP structure, and then we have this IP impl. So the underlying concrete types for the V4 and V6 addresses are now different instead of being byte slices. So this lends itself nicely because, for example, a V4 address can now be 4 bytes instead of 24 bytes, which would be the slice header plus 4 bytes or plus 16 bytes for the 16-byte representation. So this is kind of an alternative take on an IP address package. It's pretty cool, but what I wanted to show you all was, where is it? So IP prefix, marshal text. There we go. So if you have a marshal text method on your type, it will also be used for JSON marshaling. So this basically says that when this is passed to something that accepts a text marshaller or a JSON marshaller, if it's not nil, it'll take the stringified version and put that into bytes. So we can totally remove our code now, which is cool. Oh, NixOS libvirgin. Remove IPv6 prefixes. Marshall JSON. Wonderful. Oh, this is pretty fun. This prefix contains code, like verifies, it does like bitwise math to verify if an IP address lives within a prefix. Hey, T-Cool, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. This does math to figure out if an IPv6 address lives within a prefix, or V4 or V6 rather. And it had an integer underflow bug, so it unconditionally was removing 8 bits every time. So if you had like a /3, because the current global V6 allocation is 2000:/3. So if you tried to pass this in here, the integer would underflow, and suddenly the prefix like math just didn't work. And I spent like seriously like an hour staring at this loop, just trying to figure out what was going on, until I realized there was integer underflow, and I added this break, and everything worked. So what are you gonna do, right? Let's go back to this really quick. Let's see if there's anything in here we can solve for today. I don't want to get too in the weeds. We'll do the keylight tomorrow. That'll be fun. It's actually really weird. So it accepts like JSON for like the regular configuration, but if you want to set the Wi-Fi access point, it does this crazy like AES encryption within JavaScript thing with some of its like serial numbers and stuff. Like it's totally insane. I have no idea. But why are you using Go and not C or C++? Just curious. So I like Go a lot because I think it strikes a nice balance between languages like, for example, Python, which gives you a lot of expressiveness and easy to get up and running, and something like C, which gives you a lot of the low level power and flexibility and speed. Go sits somewhere nicely in the middle, and for writing network services like control plane type things, I think Go is the perfect language. So if I was going to be writing, for example, the canonical example I use is, my dream project would be to build some kind of like SDN fabric. So basically you have like some kind of user space system running out of your machine that's its job is to forward packets as fast as possible, possibly, adding VLAN tags or manipulating fields. I think in that case, I'd want to use something like Rust, because Rust is very, very good at that fine-grained memory control and being able to really control allocations, generate very efficient code. So if you're trying to saturate like a 100 gigabit NIC, you probably want something like Rust. But Go is great for like the control plane. Like, if you have like your consensus algorithm, your distributed key value storage, your passing configurations down to each of these nodes, I think Go is a great language for that. So I use Go because Go solves the kind of problems I like to solve. So I'm writing an IPv6 neighbor discovery router advertisement daemon I call core rad. That's written in Go, and it's actually really great for that. But if I was building that virtual Ethernet switch, I'd probably use something like a C or C++ or Rust. I have no C++ experience. I do have some limited C experience, but I think I'm going to use Rust for projects like that from now on. That's just my preference. Good to know, thanks. How slow would Python be for a 1 gigabit NIC? I honestly have no idea. I tend to not really use Python. I know Go can definitely saturate 1 gigabit. I have no idea about Python, honestly. I suspect it probably could. I think a lot of the Python stuff is implemented in C under the hood, but I don't know enough about the internals to really say. Let's see here. I think we can make like a new subnet function. So let's think about this for a little bit. So new subnet. So given a VLAN ID, VLAN int, we'll create a subnet. So we want to replicate some of this logic we were talking about earlier. Let's take the 10 GB fixture. Crockemeyer, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. It's pretty cool. I've seen a lot of folks come in here who haven't used Go before. That's really neat. I think that a lot of my audience probably is Go programmers, just because that's my community. But if there are folks who are finding me on Twitch through other means, that's very cool. I'm happy to share resources and such. If I hang on, what is it? Go. Hey, there we go. So we have a command in the chat that says Go. It shows some of my recommended Go resources. If you're interested, check it out. Like any language, no language is perfect. I think that Go is perfect for 99% of what I want to do, which is great. So, Go seems cool. Just not really a fan of Google. Yeah, I understand that. I think that there have been some missteps in Go's governance along the way, But that being said, overall, I'm still happy to participate in the community. Although I think we could learn a lot from like the Rust community, for example, because they are very much community driven versus Mozilla driven, right? But that's just my opinion, So let's see if we can replicate this logic. So IP4 colon equals prefix. We'll do, oh, you know, I guess we could just do, we could cheat here, right? Because for V4, the logic is easy. So good enough. For V6, I should probably make it so we don't have like hard code these prefixes, but let's work on this like one step at a time, right? So this needs to be, yes, the decimal representation as well, because even though V6 addresses are hex, we're using decimal because it's easier to read. Just trying to remove a little bit of code duplication today. You know, nothing too fancy. Where possible, I don't really like to declare temporary variables. I think that lots of people, I've seen lots of people who do declare lots and lots of temporary variables, and I find that it just gets confusing. So if the lines aren't too long or confusing, why not just use it immediately? You know, that's kind of the way I feel. And then here, we're going to have to do some weird math. How does this even work? So, oh, let's see. Var GUA is a net adder IP. No, it's an IP prefix. So if the VLAN is less than 99, we can represent it literally, so we'll do that. I'm not going to pretend like this isn't like a total hacky thing. Like this is just like, you know, this is just like generate an inventory file. Basically, it doesn't run like on a long-standing basis at all, and it's very easy to check the results. We can just go ahead and insert that here, and that will work just fine. Or else, if the VLAN is larger, we have to do some packing logic. So this would be, let's see here. So A0 is actually like this, 100. It's like 100 like the cheater way. So I would want to take it so that we don't want to like string separate this. We want to, I don't know. Let's think about this for a sec. So panic to do. Let's see if we can replace all the other uses of this really quick, except for the 10 gig one. So new subnet, okay. And there is an inconsistency here. We want to fix this too. I'm going to want to renumber this as well. And the VLAN ID for this is 1, effectively. Yeah, this is one of those weird things too, because now the management LAN is untagged traffic, but I've been using the 1 addresses for a long time, so kind of gross. Let's see what happens. Let's just generate the code and see what happens. Ah, fun. Okay. Right. Let me fix that really quick so you all can see a little better. Cool. Line 187. Hey, you proud of me? I learned a few VS Code keyboard shortcuts, so I don't look so silly anymore. Right. Parentheses. Yep. Unknown field name. What do you mean? Subnets definitely have a name. 244. Ah, okay. We didn't even touch that code. How does that work? Get diff. Oh, I broke that, didn't I? No. Oh, what? Holy cow. Looks like this might have been like an SSHFS goof or something. We completely removed the file. I'm actually not sure what I did. It's one of those things where, like, you know, SSHFS or just a casual keyboard slip. Okay, there we go. Yes, that's not quite what I want. So the GUA address needs to be padded a little bit. So that should be %02D because we are assuming a /56 because that's what I have. So %02. Yep. Okay, so now we have 3201. So in theory, I would want to renumber to this because this would be more consistent with the rest of the configurations instead of doing like the base address. Or I guess I could move it so all of the infrastructure machines are on 0, like VLAN 0, because there is no VLAN 0. That would be the untagged. I think maybe I don't want to do this with these machines right now because it's just going to be more trouble than it's worth. But we can at least replace the other ones. So what was that code before? Oh, this is lazy, but I'll bring it back. Multiple cursors, what's up? And go away. Sweet. Oh, nope. And that. Cool. But we can definitely do it with some of the other ones. So for example, LAN 0, we can now replace with a call to new subnet, which is going to be LAN 0, and it's going to live on VLAN 10. So this code should effectively be a no-op, I would think. Subnet literal is type int. Oh, right. Yeah, this is now a subnet literal and not a function call. Get diff. Oh, what's the heck? I thought go format removed those spaces. That's weird. Go generate dot and diff. Okay, so we cleaned up some code. That's good. Let's go ahead and do this with all the other ones too. So, and also I want these machines to infer their addresses through this as well. They shouldn't be able to set addresses. Although what happens right now is if you set an address that is not within the subnet you pass in, it will actually panic, which is good. So what does go_generate do? So go_generate will run the command I have in the go_generate tag. So what this does in this case is it runs bash-c go run main.go and pipes it into vars.json. So this is a quick way of saying like generate, like do some kind of like pre-check-in step. So go_generate will run this command that runs this file. So it allows me to run it without building a binary, and I can add build tags so it doesn't actually get built. Did I do that? No, I did not. Build ignore. So now if I try and go build, nothing happens. But if I go generate, nothing happens. I could have sworn you could work around that. Anyway, not that big of a deal for now. But it's just kind of a convenient little way to like run a snippet. In this case, I'm using it just to run this little bash snippet that populates a file. So, but I can also run the script manually if I would like and populate it to standard out. So subnet 9. Guest O on 9. I would expect this to also be a no-op. Get diff. Perfect. Yeah, same deal. IoT lives on VLAN 66 because I didn't want to do VLAN 666 for evil, because I wanted it to fit nicer in my v6 addresses and such and my v4 scheme. Silly little thing there. The lab lives on 2. And 10 gig lives on, 10 gig we're going to have to add a special case, so we'll wait. And WireGuard lives on 20. Perfect. Generate, and cool, we were able to, I messed that up. IoT. Should fix that too. Generate diff. So we removed some code. That's good. So again, this is definitely nothing fancy. This is just a small script I'm using to essentially feed an inventory file to NixOS, because using Go, I'm able to do things like using my CIDR manipulation functions, which are much easier, and I understand Go a lot better than I understand Nix. I'm not saying this is idiomatic. I am saying this is what works for me. So the result of this, if you haven't seen it, off my own stream, see you there. Yeah, totally. We will send you a raid shortly. So I'll be wrapping up here and I'll see you there. So Michael Stoffelberg here is going to be streaming, I believe, some Go Crazy. So Raspberry Pi, Go, user space type stuff. Very cool. So we will send Michael a raid in a little bit. It'll be a lot of fun. So this is the inventory file I was talking about. We have things like host definitions, infrastructure definitions, the interfaces of the router, and the addresses that belong on each one. So I use this to template out lots and lots of things in the config, and this file is generated with this Go script, you know. So it's just a convenient way of representing a lot of complicated logic using Go, which is a language that I'm much more familiar with. Admin.go. NixOS lib vargen. Add new subnet helper. Remove some code. Let's see if we can knock out like one more little thing. I'd like to think about this. So the logic is here is that I'm reading this as 100. So for VLANs over 100, we want to expand it into like the hex digit. But we can't do 200 here. Yeah, that won't work. So this will only work for VLANs up to like 1. It's like 109. Yeah, I don't know if I like this. We might want to change this address scheme, actually. Maybe I want to make it so that I use the hex literal here instead. So 100 in hex is what? Input base 10, output base 16, 100, 64. So 32, 64. I guess that'd probably be okay. I just want to make sure it doesn't collide with any of my other definitions, but it's probably cleaner to just say that numbers over 100 are represented as hex instead. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't have to memorize a lot of these addresses. I just use this as a convention because it helps me keep my mental model straight. But clearly, it breaks down under some of these cases, and you can't, nothing is perfect, right? So this means maybe I should reconsider the IoT stuff too. That's okay. We have time. Okay, let's do that. Let's make that change. So 10 gig is going to be populated in the same way. We'll do this really quick, and then we'll send Michael a raid. So this is 100. VLAN 100. Decimal. And for this, we'll do it as hex instead. Too large for decimal due to /56. So use hex. Wow. Getting some really weird behaviors here that I think are probably a result of SSHFS. Go generate. And diff. $32.64. Yep. And I guess for consistency, maybe I should do it for the ULA as well. Although for the ULA, we actually have space, so I think we'll leave it alone. Hey, the real PKSLZ. I'm trying to think of how I could read that as a word. I don't know. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. We are approaching 200 followers. That blows my mind. I've been streaming on Twitch now, I think, for like 3 weeks or something. I've already made affiliate, which is very cool. Thank you all so much for your support. Yeah, just shocking. I'm really glad that people care. People want to come check out programming content, super unusual NixOS routers and stuff like that. I love sharing this stuff. I love doing open source. So thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate it. So I think we're probably in good shape to commit this. And we can send Michael a raid. Compute interface properties from subnets instead. Yes, we're actually doing that now. Beautiful. All right, nothing lives in LAN 0 because we're gonna need to fix this too. So to do read number to 0. When your interface has INET and INET6 addresses, which decides which IP gets used? Just the application. I am very less familiar with network programming. So in general, there is this thing called happy eyeballs that will, given a dual stack system, it will try v6 first, and after a short delay, it will try v4 as a backup. And that generally is what most systems will do. So generally v6 will be preferred by default, and in fact, a lot of my home traffic is v6. Like all of my SSH sessions are all v6, but in general, yeah, systems will prefer v6 given the choice by default. Go generate. Cool. Git add star. Happy eyeballs. Yeah, exactly. Cool. So NixOS lib vargen. Happy eyeballs. Yes, I said happy eyeballs. That's literally the name of the algorithm. It's called happy eyeballs. Yeah, the idea is like it makes your users happy. New convention for cool. So I think with that, we will wrap it up here. Let's send Michael a host and raid. It should be a good time. So thank you all for hanging out today. It's been a blast. So we're going to send you over to Michael Stoppelberg, who's going to be working on some Go Crazy stuff, I believe. Go Crazy is a very cool project, like a little user space thing for Go and Raspberry Pis. So let's send Michael a raid. Start raid. And I'll probably be back tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow, probably early afternoon, my usual time for working on the Elgato Keylight stuff. So it should be very fun. Hey, F357B9. Hex there. Nice. Thank you for the follow. All right, everyone. See you later.